A huge blow for the Pies. The D's are on the march as the Blues' hot run continues. Damo has an exclusive as unruly fans cause havoc. Plus, we open Lloyd's exit lounge. This is Access All Areas thanks to Crypto.com.
To the man with the hot hand, Lloyd puts the Bombers back in front.
Simply stunning the Hawks.
Errol tied against the boundary. Oh, Errol!
And the Blues take a huge step closer to their first final series in a decade. Carlton wins 7 straight for the first time since 2000.
Great to have your company on this Monday morning. Damian Barrett and Matthew Lloyd are with me. Welcome, gents.
Welcome to you, Nat, and happy birthday.
Thank you. No place I'd rather be than with you two. Now, we've got a massive show ahead, but before we get into it, Lloydie, you have something you want to say?
Yes, Nat. On July 29, after our grand final win at Haileybury College, I was invited by a parent to attend a gathering, and in hindsight, I shouldn't have been there as a staff member, so yeah, I take full responsibility for that.
Appreciate that, Lloydie. All right, Damo's got an exclusive coming up, so let's get straight into the show. The big news out of the weekend, Nick Daicos is going to miss at least 6 weeks with a fractured tibia. This is the incident. It all happened. And Damo, I want to ask you, am I catastrophising by saying the Pies can kiss the flag goodbye?
Yes, you are. You are. Now, I look at the ladder after 21 rounds and there's still 2 games ahead. Yes, they've got problems. The loss to Carlton last week exposed them in a few areas and then they were exposed again, Lloydie, and I'll get you to dive into what worries you most out of that. But the injury to Nick Daicos is serious. We may not see him again this year. It's a prelim final return at best and they've actually got to win a final to get there at the very least. So problems all around the ground and Murphy going down too is another issue.
That week off before the finals is critical now, isn't it, for so many teams and players? So I hope we can. You don't think we'll see him for the first final, so at least it's a week till next week. That covers off one of them, and the week off before the bye, I hope we see him in that first qualifying.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, we all love Nick Daicos. Let's talk about the Pies more broadly, though. That's 2 losses in a row now after that defeat at the hand of the Hawks. Were you concerned before the Daicos injury, though, Lloydie?
Yes, I think that the way they were kept winning. I'm big on that covers over cracks when you win these tight ones and come back from behind. But I think they've got a one-pace midfield, so they've got a real issue there. So I'd throw Jack Crisp in it. We'll talk about that shortly. And their forward line, if they haven't got speed on the ball, they don't have players who can, Tommy Hawkins style, Tom Lynch style, who can be down the line and take marks. So they need to look at Jeremy Howe, which they didn't again on the weekend, to probably go forward to spark up that forward line.
Are you worried about the back line? And we just saw there Darcy Moore make an uncharacteristic skill error, but the overall workings of it haven't been what they were early in the season.
Why I'm not concerned about the backs as much as they're still the #1 defensive side for points against. So it's more the midfield worry for me, which then hurts the forward line as well.
Well, let's talk about the midfield now. And here are some numbers from the weekend. Second week in a row, really, they were dominated in the middle. The Hawks won the centre clearances 18-3, and you can see there it's pretty damning.
If we can keep that up, like what I just wanted to say, so you see that Will Day, Newcombe, Will and Nash, they're inside midfielders, and so they go in there a lot, so they're 20+ times. But look at Taylor Adams, that's what he is, and he's gone in 10 times. That's what Tom Mitchell is, and he's gone in 8 times. So I think if you're going to pick them, Craig McRae, pick them for what they are. Otherwise, play them in the VFL. Make hard calls like Simon Goodwin has. Do what you have to do to go on and win this premiership. So I think that he's mixing and matching and putting them on half-forward flanks. I wouldn't do that anymore. Just pick the side that you need to pick. And maybe it's kids in the VFL that play a forward flank role better than Adams or these types do, or a Tom Mitchell, Damo. So I think that's where you can be too cute with selection and maybe strip it back a bit.
And Damo, just from your perspective, watching this vision now and looking at that graphic, do you still think it's a bad idea that Hawthorn traded Tom Mitchell and Jago O'Meara?
What you Hawthorn supporters do, Nat, is turn on the people you move out. Look, I mean, Newcomb's having a really nice season. Day's going to be anything. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Nash and Warble, they're good players. They're nice players. But you do still sit 16th in that with 2 teams below you who are amongst the worst we've ever seen, and you're 2 games away from 15th, so it's not all rosy net.
It's not, but the future is certainly bright at Hawthorn. Now, there was an incident on Friday night where a fan touched Tigers premiership star Marlon Pickett. Damo, what is the latest on this?
Yeah, well, this is what happened, and we saw this, and we know that that fan is going to be receiving an AFL suspension of sorts, and the AFL will work out and finalise details to that today. What we didn't see during the course of the match was that incident there having an aftermath of sorts. We'll keep rolling on this, and with the three-quarter time siren sounded not long after that particular moment, and we can then see Marlon Pickett and Daniel Rioli move across to that same fan again to continue the discussion that he had, and this will be part of the AFL working itself through this situation today. You can see Pickett there highlighted and walking across as other teammates of his are going toward their huddle for the three-quarter time situation. So, again, this is not ideal, and the interaction with players at any stage of a game, Lordo, is not on. There's 6.4 million people in totality attend matches of football this year. There's been a few isolated moments. This is not a good one, and that person will have a ban of
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
So even if he meant well and he was just trying to be supportive, how long would you give someone for touching a player?
Look, I'd give it half a year at least. And again, I wouldn't have a major issue to me personally. Again, let it play out. Let him have his right for reply to it. But you can't be doing it. And I think that needs to be set an example. And that it wasn't the only issue that was at that start part of the ground.
Well, talk me through what else happened on Friday night, because I believe you've got a story.
Yeah, a number of teenagers, mid-teenagers, took in cartons of eggs, and we've managed to track down some vision of what was going on. We just highlighted this here, that is an egg, and you can trace it through that highlighting of it, and again, that's a dangerous thing to be doing from that height.
You can see it explode there.
It happened several times during the game. It had to be cleaned up, and again, the AFL today, Monday, will be working through what happens there. The teenagers were identified, ejected, and the others with them decided to then exit the premises themselves as well. But I'd hope that they do also get follow-up phone calls and be chased down too, because it can't be happening. It's dangerous.
It certainly is. Well, we'll have more on this story as it comes to hand on afl.com.au and the AFL Live app. Well, the lid is off among Carlton fans. It's 7 wins in a row now after they defeated the Saints yesterday. And Lloyd, it was some of their lesser lights that had big moments.
Yeah, and Vossi was stoked. He said it's one of their best wins of the year because of the way they won, being 22 points down at half-time, and Ross Lyon threw things at them strategically wise. But we're just going to look at some of the lesser lights. And this guy won't be a lesser light for long, De Koning, because he's special. He's just taking a bit of time as a tall player. They do take longer, tall players, and he had some huge moments. He set this game alight in the third quarter, and Paddy Dow, he was going to be subbed off, and you know, what he's doing well is even if he's not at Carlton, he'll be at somewhere else next year because he's shown enough. So that was a huge goal when the scores were level. And then you see, like, efforts like this, they were inspired, Carlton. They just had the ball live in their front half and they just got repeated. They did to St Kilda what St Kilda did to other sides. They just squeezed the life out of them, and you see the fans there in raptures.
There's a resilience to this club now, isn't there? And we weren't sure in the initial stages of this now 7-game winning streak what was happening. Even when they got Port Adelaide inside those first 5 wins, they got a depleted Port Adelaide. Now beaten Collingwood and had to come down from 4 goals down at half-time against the Saints. And it's finals type of footy. I don't want to get too carried away just yet. They've still got to qualify. But what they did yesterday was the most impressive half of footy they've played under Michael Voss.
And without Walsh, Cherrett and Kennedy.
And that's the thing, those players missing. So for the St Kilda Football Club, it was a missed opportunity that they probably could cost them a spot in finals. And a couple of senior Saints in Jack Steele and Brad Crouch, Damo, didn't fire a shot in that last term. It's
damning, isn't it? And both were really good, particularly Crouch to that stage of the game. He was putting together one of his very best career games and yet didn't touch it in the last quarter. So, yeah, the jobs that Voss identified and then gave to their key midfielders, and Cripps was crucial to that, a bit like Paddy Dangerfield, which we'll touch on soon, the captain stepping up in the key moments.
So to the Ds now, and they are in the top 2, if you can believe it, after a come-from-behind win against the Roos, and their class ultimately shone through, and it was the likes of Pickett and Petrarca who stood tall and really kept them going.
Yeah, they were off early, Nat. They'd lose this game if they want to start this way against a better ranked side than North Melbourne, but it was this man, Cozzy Pickett, who about 5 or 6 weeks ago I was worried about. I just thought he just wasn't getting to enough contests, he wasn't working hard enough. And this is the thing about the AFL season. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and it's about being in the right form at the right time. And that's what Melbourne are starting to do. And guys like this, like Pickett, who's arguably one of their most top 5 important players behind Gawn and Petrarca. He's in red-hot form, and they didn't have an answer for him yesterday in Tassie.
Well, so the win has actually come at a cost, though, because Harrison Petty, who last week we spoke about being the answer to their forward line woes, has gone down with an injury. It looks pretty serious. Damo, what are they going to do? They're going to have to go back to the drawing board.
Well, we know that they've had the dilemma of Ben Brown, how to play him, when to play him, if to play him. That will be generated again. They're going to have to find something because he may not be seen again until finals. And again, we don't know. It may not be seen again at all. The Brodie Grundy conundrum too. I mean, the forward craft that they sprung on him publicly 4 weeks ago when they said that's what he needs to do. Is it just time now, Lloyd, to give it a crack? I mean, it doesn't seem likely they want to play him, but now that Petty's gone down, is this the time to just make this emergency work for them?
Yeah, for me, I think Ben Brown and Grundy aren't in their finals plans. And to me, I feel like Simon Goodwin doesn't want to even tease it to give them a chance.
Even with Petty not being there?
Even with Petty not being there. So I don't think it's Grundy. I think it's Brown potentially just fills a hole for a little bit, or it's that Joel Smith goes back forward. I think the forward line is working with the mobility and the versatility. They're a bit too slow and cumbersome, I think, if you had a Grundy or a Ben Brown down there.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what the D's and Simon Goodwin do there. Just on the Lions now, and they've kept their top 2 chances alive, but they had to overcome the Dockers in that final quarter. It was tight and they had to work pretty hard, Damo.
Yeah, they managed the game pretty well, Nat. We're seeing, you can see the score, you can see the score board, and there's time left. And then Frederick kicks this amazing goal, which he can do, and there was still time then for the Dockers to pull off an amazing victory. But Danaher then stepped up in ways that we've questioned and crude in the past. A big tackle after a ruck contest on Sarong, and again, a disturbance here on Sarong again. It's just key moments, Lordo, from their big man who does step up in key moments.
Chris Fagan spoke after the game and said after what went on with that loss to Melbourne, they've worked on late moments. So how good is it they nailed what they wanted to do after what they've worked on the last month?
So what I want to know from both of you is who is your number 1 seed now? Is it still Collingwood or is it maybe the Brisbane Lions, Melbourne? What are your thoughts, Lloydie?
Number 1 seed, Melbourne.
Yeah, I'm moving toward that way. I still like what the Lions have done over the totality of the season, and they're going to get the double chance. They just got to make sure they finish in second spot, which is off some doubt.
What about you, Nat?
I'm thinking the Pies still. Even without Dacos, I'm still going to back them in for now. Now, the Cats beat the Power on Saturday night, and it was skipper Patrick Dangerfield who stood up when the game was on the line. Have a look at these moments from the last 15 minutes of the game, and Lloydie, he was immense.
He is, and he's become a bit of a impact player. Like, I don't see Dangerfield now as being as good as Bontempelli and Petrarca, because he doesn't do it consistently throughout games, but what he does do is he can have bursts of football like this where he can inspire you and just so he's not the big ball winner like the others, but he can have moments. So he's just, I love seeing this Power, and it was a critical game for them, and he, along with, I thought, Brian Myers and Tom Stewart turned it.
He did it in a different way to the way Joel Selwood would have done it, Nat, but it was Joel Selwood-like in its impact at key moment, and that had been a negative on him this year in replacing Joel Selwood as captain, as an unfair negative, because he's been banged up again and he's still been a very good leader, but it was good to see him do it in that key game.
Well, it keeps the Cats in the hunt for the top 8. Essendon survived a scare against the Eagles on Saturday at Marvel Stadium. I'm curious to get both of your opinions because Brandon Zerk-Thatcher takes a mark in the dying moments of the game. But what I want to know is, did Nick Cox illegally block Oscar Allen here? Because Eagles fans are crying foul.
Now, this is the perfect AFL example of if that free kick had been paid, they would have said it's the right decision, and the fact that it wasn't paid, that will tell us it's the right decision. I mean, I'm happy it wasn't paid for what it's worth, but I also know, Lloydie, if it had been paid, it would have been endorsed as well.
He did well late to put his eyes back on the ball. So he was looking initially. If he kept his eyes there, it should have been paid against him. But I think if that wasn't so late in the game, no one would be talking about it.
He still didn't contest, though, even after he took the eyes off. Anyway,
so you would have blown the whistle and paid the free?
I would have,
yeah.
Yep. Oscar Allen gets free kick. Yep. Eagles win the game. Incredibly, the Swans are half a game out of the top 8. I don't know where they've come from in the last 4 weeks, and we saw them enter the post-Buddy era on Saturday night. Hayden McLean and Joel Amadi stood tall, Lloydie.
It's the future. It's the future of the Sydney Swans, and obviously Logan McDonald will be around next year as well. So, yeah, fantastic. Amadi's just been let down by his body, but he just needs, hopefully, can get some consistency now. McLean probably impacted his game the best I've seen as well. So, yeah, you wouldn't want to play Sydney in the run home. That's why I love John Longmire. Like, as poor as they've been, they're just always competitive and they never throw a season away, and they're doing that again this year.
This season's going to go down to the wire. It's so very exciting. 3 rounds left to go. Time now, though, for a new segment, and we're checking into Lloydie's Exit Lounge, which I'm very excited about. Now, each week, Lloydie's going to take the exit interviews for each club and will tell us what they need to work on in the off-season. So we're going to start from the bottom. We might as well start with the Eagles, Lloydie.
Thanks,
what do you got?
Nat. Yeah, we're going to start with the West Coast Eagles, and I think they need to get a fresh look at the football club, and that starts with the coach. Both. And the CEO, yes. Yeah. So I'm making those decisions at the end of the year.
A development coach or an experienced coach?
I'm talking just the best coach available, and I think they can afford to just do that. Now, it could be a McRae type, because with such a young list, so I'm making those calls. Make the hard calls on the veterans and trade anyone with currency. So don't just make it about Harley Reid. Get as many guys as you can, because I just don't think they've got amazing youth at that club. And that's what you need.
So package that, pick one up if they get it? Still?
Yeah, even if they have to do that, do what they can just to get as many picks inside 20 as they possibly can. And I think the captaincy has retired, Shannon Hearn, so I think that make Oscar Allen. He's your best player. He's your leader, so I'm making Oscar Allen the captain of the football club. So it's a whole new, fresh look. And I think that's what exactly
and move on from Luke Shuey as well.
As
Luke
Shuey, as well.
Yep.
Sorry, yeah. So Luke Shuey would move on from that.
He's had a good year under all these circumstances, and he presents, doesn't he, as a natural leader to me.
Yeah, he does. He's their best player, and to me, he inspires me. I'd want to play with Oscar Allen. There's not too many other West Coast Eagles players that I'd say that about, Matt.
All right, let's move on to North Melbourne now. What do they need to do in the off-season? I'm sure it's a very long list.
Damo should have done this one, I think. But Clarko's system needs to improve dramatically, so he'll be able to get that with another pre-season. But I just want to go back to a game in round 5 against Brisbane. I could have gone more recent, but this was the one that highlighted how far off they were after winning their first 2 games. And they were an absolute mess, weren't they? And it happens time and time again where guys don't know whether to press up or press back. There's a lot of guys in positions, like you see, they're all at sea, and they got done out the back a lot. This was like, we talked about, you hate calling a team witches' hats, but North Melbourne were witches' hats. So you see a player come up, look at him. Last line, he comes up, but those decisions have to be made earlier, but they're not, and there's not pressure further afield. So that's the starting point for Clarkson. Their skill level is horrendous.
Yeah, we've spoken about it often, haven't we?
Often. So it just needs to improve. So that is a big thing, and that's even their senior players.
And yet again, Lloydie, they'll get access to a lot of young, good kids, but it's not just getting access to the talent. They need to actually develop it too, don't they?
You're right. So I don't think he'll take a pay cut, Alistair Clarkson, but part of me would say, OK, if I'm going to be the best coach I can be, would I take less to say we can get an extra development coach
in the soft cap?
In the soft cap, and that's what they need to beef up development and get more picks than that. So that's the ruse.
All right, and what about the Hawks? I'm curious here. Aside from Harley Reid, what do they need?
They were awesome yesterday, but I think they need to tighten up the game style. To me, it's one pace. It's fast. It's dynamic. So when it works for you, it works. But when it fails, it fails. So that's why they've won 6 games, and St Kilda kicked 9 goals against them in a quarter of football. So I think that as exciting as they are, they can change the tempos at times. Target bookend players. So Sicily and Lewis need help. And in that sense, they're being destroyed by key forwards in this competition. And here we go. So let's go through it. So in this game, Logan McDonald, career high 5 goals. In the same game, second half, Joel Amadi kicks 4 against them. Jeremy Cameron kicks 7, a season high for him. We've got Aaron Norton, a season high 4 goals for him. A season high Todd Marshall, 5 goals for him.
You've just played my entire nightmare.
And then we've got Hogan, who destroyed them along with Finlayson as well. So that's easy for everyone to see. And the last one, consistency from one quarter to the next. A bit like the top one. Bridge the gap next year, which I think they will.
As the #1 ticket holder of the Hawks, do you agree with that?
I do. All tick, tick, tick for mine. Well done, Lloydie. And we'll have more clubs enter Lloydie's Exit Lounge next week, so make sure you tune in for that. Now, don't forget to put your tips in for the AFL's official tipping competition thanks to Crypto.com. Early tips, Pies and Cats Friday night. Damo.
I've been riding the Cats, so I'm sticking with them.
The Pies will bounce back.
Ooh, gosh, that's too hard. I can't make a decision. Carlton, Melbourne on Saturday. Lloydie.
I'll go Carlton to continue this on.
Yeah, I am too. I was with him at the start of it, and I'm going to stay with him that.
OK, and finally, Port Adelaide and the Giants on Sunday, Damo.
Port Adelaide and Giants. Port did get it back on the track. First time in 5 weeks.
Yep, I
I'll
like
go
it.
Port as well.
Yep, like that one. Now time for our Crypto Brave play of the week, and we're giving it to a field umpire in Craig Fleer because this was a massive hit from Michael Walters here, and he got up very quickly. I feel like maybe our friends in the round ball game could probably learn a thing or two.
And umpires from the 60s who would have been down. Those one, the goal umpire.
It went down like a sack of, And before we go, you'd think that West Coast, when you have a halftime break of about 20 minutes or so, you'd kind of run out on the ground knowing where you were going to line up. But so much confusion here after the halftime break. They had 7 defenders there ready to go, and Elliot Yeo thought, oh, bugger it, I'm going to have to run off.
And they still wouldn't have been able to stop Cole Longford anyway. Another 5 goals, another great year.
That is true. That is all we have time for today on Access All There Is. For all your latest news, make sure you get to afl.com.au and the AFL Live app. Enjoy the rest of your week.